I can tell you that my building that I bought, the roof was fine. I did not think I needed to replace my roof. I got everything else done and I had to replace my roof. I had to replace my roof and it was a 100K number, which is just crazy. So I did not think I was going to have to replace the roof. I got done and I'm like, oh God, I got to replace the roof.
Welcome to the RAL Room Assisted Living Podcast with your hosts, Charlie Cameron and Alex Schlow. This is your go-to show for cutting-edge insights from industry leaders in residential assisted living.
Whether you're ready to launch your own assisted living business or looking to invest in this fast-growing, high-impact sector, we are here to equip you with the tools, strategies, and confidence you need to succeed. Get ready to ride the silver tsunami and change the future of senior care. Now on to today's show.
Think I got everybody. We're going to talk about avoiding design mistakes that'll break your budget. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is because it pains me so much when I see people do certain things. And I know everybody wants to do the best thing possible, but there are certain things that are just going to break your budget. And then I have to be the bad guy or you feel bad later. So we're going to try and avoid that. And if that's all right, let's see. My why, anybody that's met me before knows that I had a 4-generation household. There were everybody from high school kids to my grandmother with 92 with Alzheimer's until she passed. I wrote a book about that. I've written books on senior living, boomers. I just finished. I had done the largest marijuana study on boomers survey, and I just redid that, and it's shocking, but it's 89% now of boomers use daily. So I think we got to start. I just presented at EFA on that. So some interesting results, but I like to write and speak. And they say it's not because I just have all this knowledge, it's because I've made a lot of mistakes. And then they say that an irritated oyster makes pearls. So sharing the wisdom is how I get along in this world. History, I'm an old person, like from a standpoint of designer years, like a dinosaur. I've done this a long time. I've worked in almost every state. I've done things internationally. I write and speak. I've been doing residential assisted living for over, I think, 34 years. So I could show you some of our projects that before they were called residential assisted living, we used to call them small house. And then they started branding and naming these things greenhouse and this and that and all that kind of stuff. But I've been doing this for a long time. All that means is that I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what works for some people may not work for other things. So it just means I have a history. So this is what it comes down to, period. No money, no mission. If you don't budget correctly or you have a dreamer mentality, you're going to screw yourself up and be frustrated. You're going to have frustration and delays. You're going to have loss of trust with your investors and your lenders. You're going to have expensive value engineering that compromises the original vision. True value engineering doesn't compromise the original vision, but what I see is value engineering now, which is cost cutting, actually you're just buying less. You're getting less for the same thing. Or you could have the project be terminated in a worst case scenario. Literally, it just can't move forward. We've had a couple people that have to do that. So one of the biggest things that I see is plumbing and structural issues. I'm an interior designer. I'm not an architect. I do interior space planning, but I also do lots of budgeting. And some of the big things are misaligned plumbing stacks. This, I'm also going to break out reno versus new, because if you're renovating, it's a very different story than new build. On renovation, you're going to try as much to align your plumbing stacks, but you might not always be able to do it. On new, you should be able to do it. And I see all day long people not doing this. When you don't align your plumbing stacks, you're basically doing double work. And I'll explain a little bit more of what that is. Inefficient floor plans that require excessive plumbing runs or just more staffing. Non-standardized bathrooms requiring custom solutions instead of cost-effective inserts for marketability. I see this all day long. I actually just have a project right now that is going on in California that's an RAL, that the architect drew all the 22 bathrooms differently. Just slightly, just a little bit off. Like, why would you ever do that? And what I've realized is that a lot of architects draw wall to wall. They don't consider, could I buy a 5-foot shower insert and put it in and standardize it? And I might then need to do my drawings a little differently, but then that saves thousands and thousands, 50 grand to 100 grand in costs. This was found out too late. And then once it was brought up, they had already saw cut all the floors. It was an existing building. And then they couldn't afford it. Then they had to resaw cut, and now it's just a big nightmare. Those little tiny things about building to what you're going to put in and forward thinking make a huge difference. It also means you might have to make some decisions way up front before you ever thought you'd have to make them. So think modular construction without being modular construction, but making those little design decisions way up front can really help your budget. And I guarantee you, nobody's going to decide to come to your home or not because you got a fiberglass insert versus tile. Nobody. And matter of fact, fiberglass inserts, you don't have the grout, they don't get gross. People aren't your staff is going to love you a lot more in the future. So this is an example. Excuse my highlighting because I hadn't charged my pen, so I had to use my mouse to do it. But I took this from an actual plan that an architect did that we were the interior designers on. So this is the same building. On the left-hand side, and I don't know if you can see my arrow or not floating around. Just give me a head nod, Luke, if you can see it. Okay, I can't see your face now, but that's okay. You might not be able to see it. But on the left-hand side, these
I
are
got you guys now. Sorry.
Okay. These are two bathrooms. They are not aligned. So they are on opposite sides. This is the same exact floor plan in a different area where they've aligned the two bathrooms on the right-hand side. Now you can, and then up above on this right-hand side, you can see that they went back to misaligning the bathrooms because you can't align them every single time, but you want to try to align them as much as possible. If I can get 2, 2, 2, 2. One of the other things that I don't like about this floor plan is then I have 2 rooms right here. It creates a nice little niche, but then if this is actually specifically a dementia home, then Mary might get confused if it's her room or Bob's room here. Where if I have single doors, it's a lot easier that Mary's not going to get as confused because she's going to see her shadow box frame here and understand that. So does anybody have any questions about that? Hi, Rachel. I see you joined. Zreen, I can't pronounce. Heather, hi, how are you? Nick. So this is a big deal. If you can do this, it helps out substantially. Okay. Any questions about that? If you do, just unmute yourself or put up your hand, or I don't know how we're doing this. In the chat, do I see anything? Awesome book. Okay, terrific. All right, so we're going to go to the next one. Maybe. I got to put my mouse back
Yeah,
here.
thanks, Lisa. Were you saying on
Yeah, go ahead.
that modular is the way to think about it? Like to make
Yeah,
it
so what I like to think, and we actually have a software that's going to be coming out that's a modular blocks of these designs, is that if you think, so building one of these homes and designing one of these homes, that's a great question, is that it's a little bit like, I think we get excited as owner, developers, designers, as we can do anything we want. And in reality, like I've been doing this 38 years, there's only so many things you can do. I love it, but there's only so many things. So it's a kit of parts. So what I see RALs doing as owner operators and architects, and a lot of the architects have never done RAL or senior living before. There are a lot of home builders that are doing it, is that they look at it like almost like you're going to design your own car. And it's like, I'll get the engine and then I'll get the tires and I'll figure out whether I want 2 doors or 4 doors. And it's like, no, you shouldn't be doing that. The way to effectively do it is go to the experts and know that certain things have already been thought through over the years, and that maybe you want to pick the color and you can change the size and you can pick whether you want a minivan or a sports car, those types of things. But you have to think a little more modular instead of all custom. And with that, on this left-hand side of the screen, where that shower is, that's a standard size. There's 5 different manufacturers that make those inserts that are ADA compliant, standard size with blocking built-in with grab bars for your residents. Okay. When an architect draws it on his own, he can make it a little bit deeper. He can make it a little bit wider. He can make it a little bit shorter. When you're doing tile, you can do anything you want. And on the project that I'm on currently, it was just slightly different in every single one. And that's not a problem when you're doing tile, but then you have problems with grout. You have tile that you have to custom design. You have to put blocking in the walls for all the grab bars versus just doing an insert that's already pre-designed. And it's a no-brainer. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah. No brainer indeed.
Okay. Also, market misalignment. I see this over and over again. I will say, hey, what's the competition doing? We don't have any, we don't whatever. Your assisted livings, your big boxes are your competition. Home health is your competition. And then other RALs are your competition. So if you don't really know that when you start designing, you might over-design. You might not understand rental rates versus construction costs. Like you might only be able to get $4,500 a room, and yet you're designing it for $9,500 a room. You might not understand that you need to do all one bedrooms versus studios. Like right now, I have a client that we're doing a reno on, and I have 16 beds because that's what we're allowable. And they're deciding to make one of them not a studio, but a one bedroom. And I said, okay, so you might get 8,500 in our market for this area, 8,500 for the one bedroom, but you get 4,500 or 4,500 for the two studios. 4,500 for the two studios is $9,000 versus the 8,500 for the one bedroom. So how does that pencil out on your pro forma? And they might be able to get $5,000 for the studios. So that's $10,000 versus 8,500. You really need to understand your pro forma and how it pencils out. You might not be able to sell studios at all. And you might need to do one bedrooms. Or you might design it so that your studios can be converted to a one bedroom with a door in between them if you change out. So really understanding that on the front end is critical because it's going to affect your budget, not only in your bathrooms and your resident rooms, but in how your budget pencils out once you're getting income and your construction costs are already settled.
Yes, that's such a good point. If you don't understand your market, then you could have put X amount of dollars in and really only been able to afford Y.
That's exactly right. And every market is different. You go and you hear and you're like, everybody's getting 8,900 or 7,500 or 12,000. Might not be in your market. And it could be because your market might be 20 minutes or a half an hour outside of that 8,500. It may be that your construction costs, like in the city of Columbus right now, we have Microsoft building a plant. We have Intel building chips. We have Google data centers. We have Amazon just built, and now Anduril is coming in. Our construction costs are probably double right now what everybody is except for California. So we really have to manage that because there's so much other construction costs going on. Understanding those things as to what's going on is critical. This is an example of Overbuilt. This is one of my projects. This is a memory care. Now it's got a lot more beds than a normal RAL, but the landscaping in here is super expensive and has to be maintained. Understanding that for let's say a 16 bed, this would be over designed. It's lovely, it's gorgeous, it's incredible, but this is going to kill your budget. This is going to kill your budget. Anybody got in the chat room things in here that are going to kill your budget in here? I need to see if you guys see anything interesting that you can type in that you think would kill your budget on this. I'm just curious if you see what I see. And this is my design, so I'm not like taking somebody else's design and making comments about it. And there's several of you on, so I don't know if you're going to chat or not. If you don't, I'll start saying. One is the super high ceilings.
Yeah. I was going to say ceilings and the lights.
Super high ceilings, the lights, exactly right. So the lights from this manufacturer were actually a lot smaller in their standard, and that's that modular standard thing. But when we did the renderings, the ceiling was too high and they looked like they were like a pimple on a, So we had to scale them up. So those lights are about $4,000 a piece. Once you get over 32 inches in your size of your chandeliers or your lights, the pricing goes up exponentially to be able to carry the weight of the light in the ceiling and structurally. So that's something to consider. And when you raise the ceiling height, which is lovely, it's just a lot more expensive, but it's also then your lighting has to be a lot bigger. And then your finishes out have to be a lot bigger. And then I have to figure out how to deal with the ceilings and everything else. Too many carpets. Yeah, this is not for memory care. This is independent living down in Florida. The carpet was actually, a lot of times carpet is cheaper than the luxury vinyl tile or luxury vinyl plank. But yeah, so this is in an independent living, so it had multiple materials. Yeah, but you're right, that can cause something. Some more issues. I see most people not having a budget for this. Now, to be fair, there is not, that's really good English. There's very little data on how much you should spend on low voltage items. Everybody kind of silos them. They're all in different areas. So this could be your lighting. This could be WonderGuard or elopement stuff, like your stuff on your doors to say, hey, especially if you're doing dementia or something like that. Somebody got out and we need to know. Nurse call, security and access, your cameras, lighting controls. If you want your lighting to be on a system that allows you to have the right color temperature for circadian levels, that changes out during the middle of the day, that goes to lighting at night, the Lutron systems and those systems are very expensive. You can do, like my own place, I have the Philips. They're not meant for big installations. They're not meant for like really over 1,500 square foot. They require an incredible amount of Wi-Fi and they're very complicated. And then anytime the power goes off, you have to reset everything. So you have to almost go with a commercial manufacturer, which is a lot more expensive. We do them for restaurants and that. They're not cheap, but they're wonderful. If you're going to do those kinds of systems, you also need to understand that you probably should have a generator backup, which a lot of people don't budget for. So here's some renovation-specific challenges or hidden costs. Underestimating upgrades. I can tell you that my building that I bought, the roof was fine. I did not think I needed to replace my roof. I got everything else done and I had to replace my roof. I had to replace a couple of flat roofs which were leaking, but I had to replace my roof and it was a $100K number, which is just crazy. One of our clients it's a reno. They thought the roof was fine. Then you get in and you start uncovering the roof is not fine. It's a big number. Fire suppression and sprinkler upgrades. I've seen anything on the RALs from 50 grand to 150 grand to put these systems in. And whether you go with a wet system or a dry system. And then exterior work, curb appeal. My personal house that I did, I ended up spending over $350,000 just in that landscape, curb appeal, and then driveways. The city made me have so many parking spots done in certain ways, and it was a really huge hit. So this is the house that I'm talking about. The roof was fine.
How big was that house?
This house with the carriage house is 15,000 square feet. So technically this house without the carriage house is around, on taxes, it's 8,500. Without taxes is around 12.
That's super cool.
So I did not think I was going to have to replace the roof. That's what it turned out. I replaced the roof and then I had to do the copper stuff. And if you want to see the whole renovation, to see all the problems, you can see it on Amazon. There's a little docu-series on it. But I got done and I'm like, oh God, I got to replace the roof. I'm going to tell you a couple things. So one, the roof was actually not in bad condition, but these were standard size shingles. When you have a very big home, it looks like they're not even there, even if they're dimensional. So it looks weird. So this is still a dimensional shingle, but this is twice the size. it scales better for the home. When we're building these bigger houses, it has to scale appropriately. And so it looks much better. Once I painted the brick white, the roof looked horrible. And so I had to do the roof. It's $100,000 though. The landscaping I had to do, if you look at the drone shots and you can see online and that kind of stuff, the landscaping was just horrific. Your landscaping, I learned a long time ago from developers down in Florida, is one of the only things that appreciates over time with very little to do to take care of it. So it's a really great moneymaker for you in the future. And it's your first point of contact. And it also, if you're in a real neighborhood, it makes your neighbors feel like you care about them. And it reduces a lot of agitation from the neighbors. Okay, some other ones. Higher per square foot costs than new construction for finishes. Everybody thinks reno is going to be cheaper. Reno is not cheaper in most situations. Part of the reason is you're going to be putting in a lot more plumbing. But the other thing is, just play this out with me. In a new build, when I put in paint and carpet and ceiling details in that, I'm putting in paint, carpet, and ceiling details. In a reno, I have to demo or rip out the paint, carpet, and ceiling details. Then I have to put in the new. So I actually have a lot more added costs in. I might not have the physical walls if I'm not changing the floor plan, but I still have to demo a bunch. And then when you're demoing, you find out all kinds of nightmares. But a lot of people think that the finished costs are going to be just the same as new build as they are in reno, and they're not. They're much higher because you have that demo that you have to deal with. And then you uncover certain things. And then your contingency requirements. You might find that you have asbestos. You might find that you have lead paint. You might find that structurally somebody did something really bad. You might find that there's a whole water issue that you didn't realize. I had to put in 3 sump pumps in that property that I wasn't anticipating. There's a lot of things on a reno that you don't realize will actually cost you more than a new build. And contractors typically charge more for a reno because they don't like working in a yucky environment and having to deal with all that stuff and unknowns. All right, FF&E mistakes. Do I have everybody here? Can you guys just do a thumbs up or anything in the chat to let me know that I'm on target? Or if you want to hear something that you thought you were going to hear that you showed up and took your Saturday and you're not hearing, I can tailor this.
This is great. I keep cutting out, so I apologize for that. Hopefully that's not affecting everybody's
No
ability
problem.
to hear them.
Hopefully, I don't know what people can or not. Thank you, Anna. And if I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize. And if anybody is getting cut in or cut out, can you let us know that it's okay?
Sorry.
We got 2 thumbs
Yeah.
up. Jen, thank you. V. Simon, thank you. Thank you. Heather.
Okay, good. It's just
Okay,
me,
good.
so I'm glad
Okay.
everybody. And
Perfect.
guys, Lisa said, go ahead and ask questions during it if you
Yeah,
have
I
them.
hate hearing myself just talk. So I love the audience participation. Okay, FF&E. This is probably one of my bigger pain points because if I hear people tell me that they got stuff at the thrift store anymore or got it down at Sam's Club, I'm like, you don't know your market and you don't understand how it's going to hurt you in the future and how it's going to not positively impact your residents. Okay. So I get it. Maybe it's no money, no mission. And if you have 6 residents and you're basically doing this as a group home, but really, if you're anything over that, you should be doing it the proper way. So some of the things we're looking at is foam density, moisture barrier. Okay. When someone has an accident and pees on their seat or has C. diff or something else, you want to be able to clean it and it not get into the foam. Okay. So when you don't have that moisture barrier in a fabric, which none of the residential fabrics do, it's going to go from the fabric into the foam, and then it's going to smell like urine or poo or whatever and constantly wick up, even if you've cleaned the top. Okay. The flame spread or fire spread making sure that if something happens, it's not just about the piece of furniture catching on fire. It's about the materials that if something happens, there's toxic fumes that can come out of that. A 24/7 warranty. The majority of manufacturers will not warranty you 24/7. And when they find out you are a 24/7 facility, which is the F word, you will not be warranted. Even Fairfield Chair, which has a senior living program, got in fights with me over the fact that we had their senior living product in a home and the ottomans were not holding up. And they said, we're not warranting for 24/7 home. And I said, yeah, you sold it to a senior living market. And they're like, yeah, but our product states that. I'm like, no. So I fought it for the client. We got it. And now they have it. But 3 months in, everything's ripping and tearing, and they're not going to stand behind it. You can't get that from Amazon. You think, oh, I'm going to buy it on Amazon. I'm going to buy the warranty. You can't do that. Once they find out that you're an actual facility, they will do the research and they will not warranty you.
That's insane.
Yeah. So double rubs, because it's a lot more abuse than you're getting if somebody's working and coming home and sitting on a couch for 2 hours. Double rubs is they take a machine and you lay your fabric down and let's see, let me do it with this cloth. And a machine goes 1, 2, that's called a double rub. 30,000 is the minimum we want, 30,000 times before it can start showing wear. Our residential fabric does not have to be tested for that. So it could be 100, it could be 1,000, and all of a sudden you're going to start seeing butt marks, you're going to start seeing thread being barren, and you just spent money on that, and 6 months later you have to replace it. Institutional grade appliances. I'm seeing a lot of people do, hey, I just went down to Home Depot and bought a dishwasher. You really need to do a high temp dishwasher. You need to be able to clean things in a way that not only your health department is satisfied with, but it's going to hold up. You don't want to be buying washers and dryers over and over again, or refrigerators really aren't that bad, especially if you have a cooler or something like that. But my husband has homes, and so they've actually went to leasing programs because then they're on call to come out and fix them. They don't have to worry about it, and the price is lower, and it actually gets financed. They started out buying all their appliances, and now they're on a lease thing because it's a lot easier to just call somebody and they have to fix it and they replace it, just like your copier. So, and it also helps to finance your deal and help your budget. All right, chairs. So I just picked this chair because it happened to be on Wayfair. It happened to be something I'm seeing this kind of country look in a lot of the RALs. Not that you like this chair or dislike this chair, but I'm going to tell you why this chair doesn't work. Okay. So one, it's 17.7 inches high. We want to be around 19 to 21 inches high. Now you could probably get there with a cushion, right? But the cushions are going to fall off. 2, the arms. I want to have an arm. Right? This has arms. The arms are the back. That's awesome, right? Not so awesome. So imagine I'm a senior and I'm going to stand up to see if you can see me. But when I get out of my chair, I put my pressure on my arms and I push out. So look at that chair and imagine pushing out. What's that going to do to this still right here? That's going to break that, right? I'm pushing all my effort. I don't have the core body function of what I don't stand up as a senior typically and do it on my own, right? I'm not standing up and sitting down on my own. I'm putting my hands on my dining room table and I'm leveraging myself up, or I'm putting my arms on the side of my armchair and I'm pushing on them to get myself up. Does that make sense to everybody? Can everybody just give me a thumbs up if that makes sense?
Yeah, I don't want to sit in that chair.
No, so Isaac, you're having trouble some cutting in and out. Hopefully that'll help. I don't know if it'll work. Okay, so when I'm doing that, I'm putting an immense amount of pressure on that chair that it was not designed for. It was not designed for seniors, okay? These are senior living specific chairs. The one on the left is from Direct Supply. The one on the right is from Heckman. Okay, so I'm going to tell you some goods and bads about both of these chairs. All right, so the one on the left is from Direct Supply. The one on the right is from Heckman. Okay, so I'm going to tell you some goods and bads about both of these chairs. All right, so I'm going to tell you some goods and bads about both of these chairs. All right, so The goods on these chairs, you see this stretcher down on the bottom of the chair right here? It's a H stretcher, and I also have one on the one on the right. That helps to stabilize the legs. That is really important, okay? If I flip back, no stabilization on the bottom of that chair, on the legs. So as that pressure goes on the legs, as people drag a resident out with them in it to help them get into the chair, in up to the table or back from the table, those legs are going to start to jimmy and not hold up. Having this stretcher on the bottom really helps to stabilize it, okay? I also love that there's wood up at the top of both of these chairs. Why do I love that? Because those peanut butter hands that get on the top of the fabrics, the caregiver that just didn't clean their hands 100%, and there might be oils from their hair or from just skin oil, it's going to start make that top of that fabric look terrible, okay? This also stabilizes as someone is helping someone to scoot them in and out. This has got to clear out down at the bottom. It's still upholstery, both of them, but it's got to clean out. When somebody has an accident, some of that is going to spill out the back, okay? People are going to have accidents. They're going to pee on their chairs. It just is what it is, all right? So they're all also the proper seat height. These are between 19 and 21. They have the proper foam density, and they come with the proper fabrics with double rub or vinyls and flame spreads, okay? So that's what I like about both of these chairs. Here's what I don't like about the one on the direct supply side. Do you see this arm and how it's connected? It's not one piece like it is on the right-hand side. So I'm not getting it to take advantage of the structure of one piece that's tied to that stretcher down below, that H stretcher. So when I push on that one on the side, it's going to bust that arm out. Or if I have somebody heavy, it's going to bust that arm out. I also love that there is a place to grip on both of those arms, okay? There's a little gripper area that allows me to get up and out on them, okay? So those are, you're always going to look for, this is probably $100 cheaper chair because of this leg on the right-hand side versus the leg on the left-hand side coming up to the arm. And everybody will come back to me and say, this chair is $100 cheaper. And I'm like, yeah. And in a year when it's broken and you have to buy another $450 dining room chair, are you going to be okay with that when you got 16 of them? You're not going to be okay with that. So do you want to spend, and I also realize no money, no mission. You have what your budget, but if you properly budget for these things, you're going to use this chair 3 times a day, every single day. Your flooring and your chairs are 2 of your most important things from an FF&E standpoint. The other thing is your tables. A lot of people won't do a cast iron base, and then the table is not heavy enough, stable enough to let somebody put their hands on it and get up out of it without it flipping. So that's a chair. An interior designer or somebody that properly budgets will understand this and be able to lead you through this. If you're working your own budget and you're like, hey, I went on Wayfair and I can get chairs for $150 a piece and they look like X, Y, and Z, God love you, but you're going to be paying for it. Okay, some other things, seat height and seat depth. We went through that. Seat pitch. I see this in the soft seating all the time, that the back of the pitch of it makes it, I was just at Environments for Aging, and I consult with several of the manufacturers on all their furniture, with Qualu, with H Contract, with Samuelson, just basically all of them I consult, and I tell them how to change this stuff so it's senior friendly. Same thing with the flooring. So one of them had some new outdoor furniture, and another one had some new furniture, and the pitch was too far back. So when the senior gets into it, they fall back and they cannot get out unassisted. I don't know about you, but my caregivers I don't want a workers' comp claim from hurting their back. I don't want the resident feeling like they're trapped and they can't get out without getting assistance or sitting on the edge. So having that seat pitch correct for a senior versus normal residential is critical. All the senior living furniture is designed to do that correctly, where if you're buying something off the shelf, not only are you not meeting fire code, you don't have the moisture resistant, you don't have the double rubs, you don't have the foam density, but that seat pitch could mean that your staff has to do so much extra work and your residents don't feel independent and have dignity. Okay. Arms, reinforced seating, and then table conflicts. That's the other thing. Is I see people buying a residential table and it'll have a valance on the bottom of it, like to hide some of the mechanisms, and then the arms hit it. And I don't know if you've ever done that when you've pulled yourself up to a table or not, and then pinched your knuckles, but it sucks. It hurts. It's not fun, or you can't get it up, or it hits that table and destroys how that looks. Okay. These are all those little kind of details that are, I guess nobody thinks about them except for an interior designer until after you do it, but it's things you want to really manage. Okay, staffing. And I see this all day long. I say, okay, how many residents can you have in your area? And some people will say 6, some will say 8, some will say 16, some will say nobody cares in California. You can do as many as you want, however it is. What I want you to do is look at your room count versus bed count, okay? Because it's really about bed count versus room count, because you could have 2 people sharing a bed. You could have a room with 2 beds. You could have a double, that kind of thing, versus your staff count. What do I mean about that? What I mean is I see people trying to get an extra bed in the floor plan or person in the floor plan, and then they don't understand the staffing ratio. That if I have to have a 1-to-8 staffing ratio, and I move from 16 beds to 17 beds, I have to get a whole nother caregiver. And I have to figure that out in my pro forma. So if I had 16 beds, I'd have 2 caregivers. If I have 17 beds, I have to have 3. That kills your numbers later. Absolutely kills them. So you need to understand that. This should not be how many beds the designer can fit in. This should be, what are your numbers to make it work? Because you can make better rooms, or you could do a respite room that somebody can try out, that kind of thing. Design, it's not efficient for staffing. Now, I'm not saying you design for staffing. I'm very against that. These people, your residents are living there 24/7. But there are things that are completely inefficient. Having your supply closet for stuff you're using constantly away from your mop sink, or people having to go out to the shed to get stuff that we could have put into an area that they could just get to right away. Just making sure that we're really thinking through that, putting things in storage that's way too high, that most of your staff are women and short. Those little types of things. And then missed code compliance. I'm seeing the architects design to the building code. They do not design to the health code. And a lot of times they don't even know it.
One of the biggest challenges in residential assisted living is catching small health changes before they turn into costly hospitalizations. CarePredict addresses this by using the Tempo wearable device and real-time data to measure residents' daily activities, their routines, and behavior. This gives smaller homes visibility that you would not normally have. The built-in predictive analytics help flag patterns early so that your team can step in days before a crisis instead of reacting later. For smaller operations, that means earlier awareness of condition changes, more consistent care, and fewer avoidable hospitalizations. It also creates clear, objective data that automatically validates the great care that you are already providing. This builds lasting trust with families. And as the market grows more competitive, offering this level of proactive safety is a practical way to differentiate your home and to stand out. See how simple it is to bring these insights into your residential assisted living home. Go to CarePredict.com and book a quick demo today. Again, that is CarePredict.com.
So we have 12 RALs going on right now. I'll say to the architect, what's the health code for the kitchen, or what's the health code for the licensing for this group home? I don't know. That's the owner's responsibility. Whoa, wait a second. Okay, that can be completely different compared to the building and fire code. We could have to do things that you just design the building and now we have to redesign because the health code or the health department can say, no, you have to do something differently. It could be medications, how they're kept. It could be anything. Okay. This is one, now this is big. So granted, take this into consideration. This is big, but this is not really that efficient for staffing. So what do I mean by that? If I've got to get somebody over here in this far upper left-hand corner and it's nighttime and I'm going down in staffing and the staff happens to be hanging out in these staff rooms or over on this side, I'm screwed. This resident really is not going to be taken care of that well down in here because we don't have any staffing locations over in these areas. All the staffing is centralized right here. Very efficient, but not great for the residents. And so if someone's falling in over here and it's nighttime, how am I going to take care of everybody else? All right, how we doing? Everybody good? Okay, challenges, money out prior to financing closing. I see this all the time, and this is on new construction. You have to pay for your designer and your architect and that kind of stuff and budget building before you ever get financing. You're going to have that budgeted. Once you get financing and you're doing your construction stuff, you need to figure your startup costs to make sure you have enough money to market this thing after you open, because you're not going to start with all your residents all at one time. So you're going to have losses while you're marketing to get up to speed. So make sure you factor that in. And then site issues. A brownfield might be that it has some yuckies on it that you've got to clean up. I don't see, if you're in a residential neighborhood, really residential, I don't see that as much. But if you're on the skirts, there could be something like there could have been a warehouse there before. There could have been a gas station there before. You have to have your soils tested. You might have to have retaining walls. You might have to do tap fees. I don't really see these being figured in. I see people are like, hey, the land costs $500,000 or $1 million, and my construction, I'm going to do it $250 a square foot. But I don't see all these other things coming into play. So just consider them, do your due diligence, do a little bit of research. Roof trusses. Great architects will look at a plan, or great contractors, and redesign the roof trusses and work together. So we have a project up in Massachusetts, and I designed the whole plan. We have a design build. The contractor came on board and he's like, hey, if you make this room 2 foot smaller, my roof trusses are so much cheaper and in line. I'm like, let me look at the plan. I did it, and now it's saving so much money. So somebody that knows that kind of thing is really important. Do you have recommendations for manufacturers and products that are semi-affordable that you could share? It really is going to depend on your budget and what you're doing and the location. But yeah, there's about 100 manufacturers that we work with. So we build our budgets based on who we know we can get things from. And right now we're having to rebuild them because of the China tariffs. But we can do that, and we can work with you on that. I don't have anything that we can share, but I have tons of content out there that you can see. HVAC, and I'll go a little bit more in detail on that, but deciding how you're going to heat and cool your building and be able to have the resident have individual control in their own unit. Lighting packages. I typically see that the architect will undersize them and the contractor will under budget them. You need 70% more lighting for a senior than you do for a normal job. Design and finishing details. I see overbuilt lighting in the resident rooms. You don't need to have a ton of lighting in the resident rooms. Lamps and one fixture can really do a lot. Okay. I see excessive trim work sometimes in resident rooms. Nobody's going to come or not come because you're putting in trim around all the windows and around all the door frames and that kind of stuff. If you model it up well, one room, they're not going to care. And that's money that you don't have to spend. No model room budgeted. And I'm not talking about a $1,500, oh, I'm good at decorating my bathroom or a resident room. This is a full, really good model room. I can tell you that when I make up a model room, and it should cost about the cost of 1 month's rent, you will sell. And then smallware is forgotten. Everybody's like, what's smallwares? Whoops, let me go back. Smallwares are like plates, linens, dishes, pots, pans, silverware, all that kind of stuff. It's typically not in a budget. Here's some over detailing. This is really cool. I want to do this. I want to build these out for every room for my memory care. Yeah, they're really cool. They're super, super expensive. Super expensive. I love them. If you have a trust fund, I am your next client. I will do this for you. I love you. But if you are not, and you're getting a loan, just don't even talk to me about this. And someone the other day said I was very sarcastic. I am. It's because I just have done this a long time. So I don't want you to go spend.
Love it. Yeah.
Okay. On the other side, this is a project I did where every single 2 rooms, we did a different facade because the owner wanted that. That's super expensive. You don't need to do that. It's super cool, but they had the money. So they never complained about the money. They wanted to do it. That's it. But if you're dealing with a budget, don't do those things. This is one of my projects down in Florida. Love it. It's so expensive. So much exterior detailing. It's in Florida, obviously, because of the obnoxious color. So much landscaping, planters, but you probably are not going to be able to do all this. Some things you can do. You can do little toilet paper holders that help. You could do bidet toilet seats. You can do a decent courtyard design. You can do some accent lighting and painting. These are things you can do. This is that insert that I talked about. Now, I wouldn't really recommend the trench drain and flushing this out. I would recommend having the ADA lip here and the drain in the center because these just don't work out no matter what. This is a cheaper way to do ADA. Doesn't look great. This is the more expensive on the left-hand side, okay? This is very expensive on the left-hand side. I've got cabinets. I've got a medicine cabinet. I've got a mirror. I've got the valance. I've got drawers. The cheaper version is on the right-hand side.
And that looks great.
Yeah, here's some more examples. Doing a little bit of instead of doing a full-on built-in cabinet and shelving, this really helps a gentleman. It's a grab bar for a gentleman to be able to hold himself up while he's peeing with the other hand and not fall when he's doing it and still give him independence and dignity. This is in laminate instead of wood on the countertop. This is an insert, but they did do tile in the wall. I'm against the tile on the wall because of grout cleaning. I cleaned all through high school, so that's probably why I have a little PTSD on it. Doing an LED light strip here is not that expensive on the side. You do it on a sensor. The trim I'm talking about, see how there's no crown mold in here? People often do crown mold in the resident rooms. You don't need it. No one's going to come or not come because you don't have crown mold in your resident room. Outdoor spaces. We want people to be able to have fun. We want the proper heights. We want to have cushions. People that have 70% less body fat don't sit well on hard surfaces. This is a huge bang for your buck. Super tiny, super cost effective, but a wow factor.
Yeah, I love that.
This is a courtyard. When you're doing your secured courtyards, if you're doing them, make sure you make the concrete organic. You make sure there's drains in there. You have stand-up gardens and different things like that. You can make it cost effective. Also, make sure there's a way to mow the grass and maybe even have a little shed to get it in and out. This is my husband's. We have chickens and bees and all that kind of stuff. This is expensive. We have 1, 2, 3 interior courtyards. Super expensive versus opening the building and having a gate. Cost-effective dining rooms, cost-effective lighting. You notice there's no crown mold here, but we upped the lighting and we have lay-in over here in the ceiling. Again, restrooms that can be very effective. This is a stock cabinet, not custom. Okay, space planning, materials that last, reducing staffing. We've talked about that. Level of trim, bringing the outdoors in. The bigger your windows, they are a little bit more expensive, but that helps residents so much. This is a more cost-effective exterior, but it's still expensive. I have one material, I have two materials, I have three materials. Do you see that? Okay. It looks lovely, but it's expensive. And then I have to have my bander boards, right? Resident rooms, mock them up. This is a great model room. If you don't mock it up and you don't spend the money, again, budget for about what you're going to charge for one room. This shows you cheap finish out, okay? This is probably what your budget is. And this is probably what you want your budget to be. Your budget is your budget to be. So what we want is something in the middle, okay? But this is what we have to figure out, okay? This is even more expensive where we've backed off all the rooms. We've got wall coming around here. We got 6-panel doors. We got some wall sconces. You don't need wall sconces, please. You don't need them. If you have really big, they help. Crown mold. I've got a tray ceiling and lighting. Super expensive. Some life cycle costing. So life cycle costing means when you're building your budget, don't forget that you're going to pay a cost down the road. So something might be more expensive up front, but if it saves you money down the road, it might be actually cheaper to do the more expensive thing up front. Okay. That's with furniture. That's with HVAC. That's with lighting. This is HVAC. This is a PTAC unit. This is what a lot of cheap hotels have. This is what most people can afford in their resident rooms to have individual controls. This is a VTAC, a little bit more expensive. You don't see it as much, but it takes up square footage out of your room. And then a 4-pipe. Consider the cost of these things and don't get all high and mighty about it. Work within your budget. Yes, sir. Sorry, Isaac, what'd you say? I can't. Can someone else understand what he's saying? I'm sorry.
Isaac, I'm having trouble hearing you many last week.
Or maybe put the phone up to your mouth. I don't know. Somebody else says, what do you think the best bang for the buck for a design recommendation to make it efficiently unique? Oh, in-floor heating, I would say no. I love radiant heating. It had, with the materials that we put on and people not wearing in the colder months, I've done radiant heating in a couple projects. We haven't seen if it's bang for the buck, I haven't seen a win on it. And I haven't seen a win marketing wise on in-floor heating. It's a great idea, but I haven't seen that. In-wall is basically what most people can afford. The 4-pipe is the best, where everybody can dial up and dial down and you don't see it, but it's super expensive. Super, super expensive. Typically, I'm seeing the VTACs or mini splits. Mini splits are the little things up at the top. Usually it's a 1 to 8, 1 to 6 to the condensers. So you have to figure out where the condensers are going to be. Most Americans don't understand a mini split because it's more of a rest of the world thing. So they'll look at it and think it's weird and maybe not cool. A VTAC, they understand. So if I go back to a VTAC, that's a VTAC. They have no issue with that. They don't even have that big of an issue with a PTAC right there. But the mini splits, they find them a little bit weird. Here, I just want to show you this flooring transitions. Doing 0 flooring transitions will really help you. Hopefully I answered that question. Your 3-season porches, I also see a huge cost there. Typically in the colder climates where I'm at, we work all over, but I'm in Ohio. You almost need to make these 4-season. This is a 4-season. People think I'll just do a porch. In Florida, they'll just do a porch with screen and windows. But in a lot of the states, you actually have to make it 4-season to really be able to utilize it. And then you're paying for it anyways with the roof structure. And you might as well just put some heat and cooling out to it. Some examples of this is like 0 transition flooring. Stock cabinets. Don't let your architect or designer do custom cabinets for everything. Do something in stock cabinets. That means they're 24-inch, 30-inch, 36-inch, 42-inch. They're stock sizes. You can bid them from multiple manufacturers. Don't do high-end stuff that you can't afford. This is induction cooktops and a bar, and it's lovely, but you might not be able to afford all this. These metal shelves right here are about 10 grand. I
Yeah,
know they
super
should
cool,
be.
but
I-
not worth it.
Yeah, and I did this design and I just priced them out again. I'm like, 10 grand, man, that's not worth it. Window sizes. This is a cheap thing. These are standard size windows. They wanted bigger windows, so they just put two of them side by side. Can you see that little thing right there? That doesn't hurt anybody. And then I can have a standard blind there versus a big window that's going to cost me way more than the two small windows. Now, did I need to put the trim around there? No, we didn't need to do that.
And these are the two studios next to each other.
Yeah, these are actually, there's a wall in between and they share a bathroom. So this is a semi-private. This is a shared unit. It's the entrance. That's one big window. Say it'd be cheaper to do the two smaller ones. This one has crown mold in it. Now, that other bedroom that was really well modeled up, and I modeled this one up too. If it's modeled well, nobody's going to buy or not buy because of that crown molding. But it's going to cost you, could cost you 75 grand for the project or more. Fitness equipment, if you're going to do fitness, have the right stuff. Okay. So
Yeah, just free weights, right? Barbells.
yeah, just free weights,
Yeah.
Don't do balls that people sit on and can fall on. I'm tired of seeing free weights and balls or somebody saying people don't exercise. Yeah, people don't exercise because you don't have the right stuff. Invest in proper planning up front. Engage experienced contractors early in the design process. Standardize wherever possible, bathrooms, room layouts, finishes, and create detailed FF&E specifications with commercial grade requirements. Include all technology systems in your budget. Start meeting with people, finding out how much the stuff is for low voltage. Align your room count with your staffing thresholds and establish appropriate contingencies. Okay. Hire for renovations. You don't know what you're going to get into. Conclusion, proper budget planning isn't an expense. It's an investment that protects your project, your relationships with stakeholders, and ultimately your vision. And then that you can do the QR code if you want to get a hold of us. Hopefully it works. My son set this up. And then
If it worked, it was easy to find your website. I just
yeah.
clicked 'cause
And then if you want to be on the waiting list, oops, did I do this? Okay. If you want to be on the waiting list for the budgeting software that you'll be able to use on your own without hiring us, this is the waiting list for that. And it budgets the construction costs, the FF&E, and the fees.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's a 3D module. So it's like Legos where you build your own plan and then you can see what your site is, you can do a fly through. You can see the differences in good, better, best. It's pretty tricked out. I have a couple patents on it.
Very cool.
And that's me. All right. Do we have any other questions? Open shelves are cleaner than cabinets. Open shelves are cleaner than cabinets, but open shelves typically are messier and you have to keep them super neat. All right, what's our questions? And I'll stop sharing.
Lisa, that was wonderful. We kept cutting out, so I apologize for that from my end. But
Yep.
this just really spoke to us in particular because we're thinking about designing and developing ourselves. And what it basically, number one, we have to know the market so that we actually can make money on it and give us a realistic budget on what we can affordably do. And I also think if there's a way we could put the base that has the potential for improvements later. But if you design it that way from the beginning, where you have a base layer, then you can stack on a little bit more cool designs later. We could do that as an option after we get it running. I don't know if that's something.
100%. And I didn't mention countertops, but you really should be doing a quartz or a granite. Yeah, you don't want to go laminate. There are certain areas where you don't want to penny pinch. And then other areas like the resident rooms where I'm like all day long, don't do trim around the windows, don't do trim in the windowsill, don't do trim around the doors. There's certain areas where don't do the custom shower thing, do just a shower curtain. There are certain things where I'm like, I can reduce your costs, and that's exponential, right? It's not a one savings, it's a multiplied towards all your resident room savings. Where then I want my money shots like at the front entrance, where I'm not going to penny pitch on my fireplace that's right at the beginning and say, oh, I'm only going to do drywall. No, I'm going to put stone. That's going to be on every brochure. That's going to be on every social media post when they're got the residents sitting around there doing the sing along. Like, you've got to think about what you're doing in the construction and the design that is your continuous marketing and branding.
Are there any other specific things that you're like, hey, this is not something that you should penny pinch on? You mentioned the countertops. You mentioned a few things to avoid. Is there anything else that you'd say, hey, this is something that you definitely want to make sure you include?
So like countertops, flooring, furniture, lighting is less about the look and more about having a lot of lighting. Like you need a lot of light, but you don't need to have super expensive fixtures. Exterior landscaping driving up, I wouldn't penny pitch on that, but I would make it very easy to take care of and not. So that means that if there's an area that's gonna, like, a sprinkler system is expensive, but you can get a reduced cost on your water bill with the cities most of the time. And then you don't have to have staffing doing it. And then you don't have to replace plants. So that's an upfront cost that a lot of people won't do. They're like, I can just do the hose. The hose, you don't get a reduced cost on your water. That's that life cycle costing. Fences. Fences, if you're handling dementia, you need an 8-foot fence in your, if it's not a courtyard that's enclosed. If you're making one, you need an 8-foot fence. Don't do something that you have to stain and take care of every year. Do a plastic one or a metal one. Yeah, I think with low voltage in that, I would build in the capacity to put a lot, but maybe wait and to see what's coming down the pike, because we don't know what's going to happen. Let's see. Is there any other questions? I don't see. I also see the shared bathroom thing. I just want to speak to the shared bathroom. I've experienced it before when I did a lot of military work and would renovate their hotels on campuses. And I'd never experienced that before in my life. And there's 5 kids in my family, and we had shared bathrooms, but not shared in between Jack and Jill. So I got up in the morning to get ready to go meet with a general, and the door was locked. And I had to pee. That is not, in my mind, okay. So from a senior standpoint, where I might have a prostate issue or something else, anytime we can not share a bathroom, I would rather have a bathroom that's down the hall or my own toilet, and you don't have to even have a sink if you can't fit anything else in. But give me my own. And from a cross-contamination, if you want to kill, and I'm talking literally kill your residents, cross-contaminate them with C. diff because they're sharing a toilet. It'll run rampant through your home. And when you have lower residents, that could mean that all your residents are gone within a month. Those are the realities of it. If you have 96 residents and 6 of them die, that's a different story. So it's not only a dignity thing and it's like, hey, I don't want to pee my pants thing, but it's also a health issue. And you guys froze again, Luke, so. Anybody else have any questions? Because I think they froze again. Hi, Isaac. What's your question?
Earlier on, you mentioned about Massachusetts. You did something in Massachusetts, right?
Yeah, I've got a couple projects up there.
Yeah, I'm in Massachusetts, and I've been trying to see other people to connect with. I'm new in the RAL space. I'll be willing to know the kind of people or connect with the kind of a group that you are doing stuff with, and then more information. Massachusetts is, from my own standpoint, I see more of big boss buildings, not as people like us. So I've been looking to connect with smaller guys who are doing small space stuff, which is a little bit difficult. So if you have that connection, I can always.
Yeah, that's terrific. So I'll put my email in here again. I'm just going to put it in the chat so everybody can cut and paste it. Okay, there we go. And Luke, I'd be happy to meet with you guys on the side and go through some stuff and really play. So that'd be fun. What other questions does anyone have? And I know everybody wants to get back to their Saturday. I have to put together IKEA furniture, so I'm trying to hold this off.
Lisa, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll definitely tag up with you on the side as well. And yeah, we appreciate it. And thanks everyone for joining us on this Saturday. I think Lisa signed up to come speak again in a couple weeks.
I did on a different topic.
We can't wait. Yeah, this was awesome. We'll make sure we have more reliable internet. And we won't
But you know what? You guys got the whole digital nomad cool thing going on.
We do it cool. Yeah.
Actually, about to go see an assisted living, 2 homes next to each other, about 15 minutes from here that were really.
Where are you guys at?
We're in Woodbridge, Virginia.
Okay, right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Which assisted livings are you going to see?
Evermore,
Okay.
Dave Reese. You know that name?
Yep. And who else? Just both of them are?
Yeah. Do you
Okay.
know Jane Road?
Yeah, Jane Rhodey and I are very good friends.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. We've been friends with her
Yeah.
for quite a while too. And she designed this one.
Yeah, we speak on a lot of, we're both on Ageless Living collaboration together. We speak on a lot of panels together.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
That's
Jane,
great.
and I, Jane actually was participated in my Werner house, was part of that big house that I showed you because I invited other designers to participate with me on it. So we come at it from different angles. She comes at it much more from the architectural and staffing side, and I come at it from the interior design, and I was in-house side. So because my husband owns homes and I worked at an in-house large group, so I'm all about, oh my God, if I can't make money, we're screwed.
That's awesome.
All right, terrific. Everybody have a wonderful Saturday. Hopefully it's not raining like it is here in Ohio for you all.
Thanks everyone for joining us, and hope you have a good rest of the Saturday. And Lisa, again, thank you so much. And if we can help you in any way, don't hesitate to reach out. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you all.
Awesome. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the RAL Room Assisted Living Podcast. We hope you found today's episode insightful. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a raving 5-star review. And a quick review helps more listeners find the show and more seniors get the exceptional care they deserve.
And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And just so you know, we have prepared some free resources for you to help you succeed in residential assisted living in addition to this podcast. Head over to theralroom.com, that is the RAL room.com, to download our free 10-step guide to launch your first or next residential assisted living home, or our 10 reasons to passively invest in residential assisted living ebooks.
And if you're ready to take the next step and make real moves in the RAL industry, join us in the RAL Room Mastermind. It is an exclusive community where we deep dive into everything you need to launch and grow your own residential assisted living business. You'll get access to recorded courses, live calls with industry experts, a RAL calculator, resources and tools, like-minded entrepreneurs, funding opportunities, and an expert networking community to help you along your journey.
Be sure to join us next time on the RAL Room Podcast as we continue to explore the world of residential assisted living with more great guests. See you then.